On today's show, we have Loren Mahler, the CEO of Jupiter Exchange. And Jupiter Exchange is somewhat of a newer project to the scene. So why don't you go into details? What prompted you and why did you actually start it?
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
So Jupiter Exchange we consider ourselves a financial technology company. So we are creating a publicly accessible alternative asset market, leveraging NFT technology and the underlying blockchain, obviously. So the alternative asset market, as you know, is basically anything that you can invest in that's not a stock or a bond. So all the cool stuff, physical, tangible assets, art, cars, jewelry, those kinds of things that people tend to want to put their money in as a more stable long-term investment, especially when there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. So what we're doing is taking these alternative assets, so taking, say, that work of art, turning the ownership of that asset into an NFT, and then fractionalizing it. So anybody can purchase fractions of this asset at a much more reasonable, accessible price. So expanding market access to these items. But then the second piece really of what we do is we're also establishing an exchange, a fully regulated exchange where these fractions can then be traded in a traditional bid-ask model. So injecting liquidity and price discovery and things into what have been a traditionally very solid, not moving very much market.
Interesting. So what are the first things that come to mind when you guys are trying to tokenize or get on the platform? What are you going after first?
We plan to cover a variety of verticals. We say anything that falls into that alternative asset category except real estate. Nobody wants to touch real estate. So most likely we will start with art, potentially cars, and then expand from there into a variety of other things to include the collectible market, what I term sort of that Hollywood memorabilia part of the world that everyone gets really excited about, things that people are passionate about in both the collector space, fans, pop culture items, things like that.
So they have the Picasso or they have certain art, right? Mm-hmm. Why would one want to maybe fractionalize it to begin with?
So we kind of look at the benefits from two perspectives. Like you were just saying, there's the current owner, the asset owner perspective and the benefits, and then the buyer and investor side of things. So from the asset owner point of view, generally when you own, I always go back to Picasso because everyone understands why Picasso is valuable. So when you own that Picasso, you have this great asset, but you have very little liquidity from that. That particular market it's operated the same way for hundreds of years, thousands of years. It's essentially an auction-based model. If you have $2 million, you can go to an auction, you can buy a Picasso, that's great. You're not going to see a return on that investment unless somebody's willing to pay you $3 million for that same Picasso later. So not a lot of liquidity, not a lot of movement in that space. So the benefit to that owner is to be able to actually create a liquidity event for that asset. So as we work through the details of all of this through existing regulatory structures, which is a big piece of what I think about every day, the best way to think about it is taking that asset and the NFT that is created for the ownership and then fractionalized. The current asset owner maintains the majority share of those fractions. So they maintain possession. They get to keep their thing, while others can then subscribe to the other fractions and then exchange them as an investment opportunity on our platform.
You guys are looking to, I guess, go out and find people that are willing to put assets on your platform, correct? And kind of curate that way?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Any game plan on also maybe acquiring assets and kind of tokenizing them on your platform, or not for now?
No plans right now to acquire assets on our own. Okay. I am not interested in buying art. I am interested in building a platform that facilitates additional access to investment in other people's art.
Do you have any prospects or anything in line, like who you go after first to kind of bring them on the platform and set a precedent?
We have been having conversations with various collectors and individuals who have various pieces, both in art and in other verticals, who have expressed interest in being a part of the process.
All right. So I bought shares of this artwork, and let's say, further down the road, I would like to sell them. What does that process look like? And also the liquidity that's actually going to be available on the exchange.
So the exchange is being created with liquidity in mind. That's not a hurdle we plan on tripping over. That's clearly a huge challenge in a lot of the crypto space right now. We consider that traditional finance like lesson learned. Like, we're not even going to try and start something like this without that liquidity built into it. So that is there. When you've got the fractions, they're on the exchange, they're sitting there, you decide you want to sell them, great. You go onto the exchange as you would with any other exchange and you sell them. It's going to be just like any other exchange-based platform.
And so let's go back to also the Picasso, right? I'm buying fractions of this and we don't know where it's stored, or the owner storing it in a certain location. Is everyone going to retain the rights to ownership? Will there be a custodian or a certain storage that's going to link the asset? And how is that protected? The investors.
Sure. So part of the process for us, part of that initial onboarding process for asset owners is going to be an asset owner agreement that requires a fully insured asset, that requires, depending on the asset, specific restrictions around usage. If the asset that you are bringing to list is, say, a high-end race car, you're not going to take it out to the track and crash it on Saturday. There are asset-specific requirements that will be built into that ensure protections for that asset to the extent that we're able to get those guarantees.
Who is the actual underwriter on this to make sure these are actually valid, authentic assets that are being put on the platform?
For an asset to actually be part of our pipeline, to be curated onto our platform, there will have to be very firm verification standards for what is actually coming to us. It's not an open listing process. You can't just show up and say, I've got a Picasso, boom, there it is.
And any other aspects from revenue standpoint?
So the fees that are coming into this at various points in the process are essentially what you would expect from the various markets that we're combining into our platform. So you'll have minimal transaction fees on the exchange. There will be listing fees required for asset owners to go through this process and list on the exchange. There will be additional opportunities to pay for additional market data as the exchange gets up and running and develops a history of exchange data. We intend to make information and details about the assets very transparent, so you know what it is, what its history is, what its verification has been, but the specific market trading data over time will be another opportunity. So we kind of fall into those buckets right now.
All right. So you guys already raised the seed round. Kind of what are you guys doing over the next 12 to 24 months?
So for me, my top goals in the coming months, and I would say on a timeline much shorter than 12 to 24,
Yep.
is actually launching the exchange, getting this thing out the door. So that involves finalizing what the specifics are going to look like around the legal and regulatory elements. That involves then taking those assets who are essentially on standby right now and working them through that process, and then getting the actual exchange up and running, actually pulling it off. So a big focus right now is on hiring. We're growing, we're expanding the team, not just in sort of the tech and development side as well, but across the board. You talked about folks who are supporting those partnerships and who are building out those partnerships with the asset owners. That's a team that we're currently expanding on even more. So building the team, putting the pieces in place with folks who can then grow out the different aspects of the team as all of this is coming together. I keep describing it as sort of a circle of dominoes of they all need to fall at once, but you have to decide which one to push first on any given day. So the hiring and growing and building out, expanding on what's already a great team into an even more experienced team across these different aspects is my personal priority right now.
For everybody listening that would like to obviously sign up and join, where should they go? What should they do?
JupiterExchange.com. We're pretty easy to find. We're in the process of yet another exciting website overhaul. So go check it out, sign up for the wait list, and yeah, you'll hear about it first.